You ever wonder why, out of all the women a man might meet, there's that one who stays on his mind? The one he keeps thinking about long after she's left the room. The truth is, men don't get attached because of luck, beauty, or even chemistry alone. They get attached because of something deeper, something psychological that awakens when they meet a woman who makes them feel in a way they can't easily find anywhere else. Let's break down what that really means. You ever notice that when a man truly falls for a woman, it's not always because she's the most beautiful person in the room. It's not because she's the most outgoing or the funniest or even the most his type. It's because something in the way she makes him feel hits a part of him that's been asleep for a long time. And at the heart of that feeling is something so simple yet so rare. She makes him feel significant. Now, significance is not about ego stroking. It's not about constantly telling a man he's amazing or showering him with attention. It's much deeper than that. Every man underneath the armor, the confidence, the charm is looking for one thing, to feel that who he is matters to someone beyond what he can provide. We live in a world where men are often valued for what they do, their achievements, their success, their ability to fix, to lead, to provide. But when he meets a woman who values him not for the role he plays, but for the person highs, that's when something inside him wakes up. See, most men are not used to being truly seen. They're used to being appreciated for the outcome, not the effort. They're used to hearing, "You're amazing for what you did, not I see the kind of person you are." When a woman looks at a man and notices the details, how he tries, how he cares, how he handles pressure, how he thinks, that's when attachment begins to form. Because she's not reacting to his mask, she's connecting with his core. And here's the powerful part. When a man feels significant in a woman's eyes, he doesn't just feel admired, he feels understood. Admiration feeds the ego. Understanding feeds the soul. There's a difference between saying, "You're incredible," and saying, "I love the way you think," when you're passionate about something. The first compliments what he does. The second honors who highs. One is common. The other is unforgettable. But let me be clear, it's not about over-giving or trying to make a man feel important just to keep his attention. That kind of validation burns out fast. True significance is born from authenticity. It happens when you see him through the lens of curiosity instead of judgment. It happens when you ask questions that go beneath the surface, when you care about what drives him, what scares him, what he dreams about at 2 a.m., but never tells anyone else. That's where real connection lives. And you know what's fascinating? When a woman sees a man in that way, something shifts in him. Suddenly, he's not trying to impress her anymore. He's trying to earn her respect. He starts showing up differently. He starts opening up more. He begins to invest emotionally, not just romantically, because in a world where everyone's trying to be noticed, finding someone who truly sees you feels like oxygen. There's a moment that happens early in any strong connection, a moment where a man realizes she gets me, and it's rarely because she said something grand or dramatic. It's usually something subtle. Maybe she laughs at the way he phrases things when no one else catches it. Maybe she notices how much thought he puts into small things that others overlook. Maybe she tells him that the way he talks about his work makes her believe in him a little more. Whatever it is, that recognition doesn't just make him smile, it makes him stay. Because men don't get attached to perfection. They get attached to presence. They get attached to the woman who listens without trying to fix him, who celebrates him without needing to change him, who reminds him of his worth without taking responsibility for it. That's the magic. That's the difference between attraction and attachment. Attraction can happen in a moment, but attachment, real emotional connection, is built when a man feels safe enough to show up as his authentic self and still be valued. And here's what's even more powerful. When you make a man feel significant, it doesn't just make him fall for you. It invites him to become a better version of himself. He starts to rise into the potential you see in him. He becomes more generous, more committed, more emotionally invested because deep down, he's responding to something primal, the need to matter. Every man wants to feel like he's making an impact in the life of the woman he loves. When he feels that his presence, his energy, his love actually adds to your world, he doesn't just stay, he thrives. So significance isn't about doing more for him. It's about seeing more in him. It's about meeting him where his heart hides and letting him know that who he is right now, before he's achieved the next thing, before he's figured it all out, is already enough. That's when he gets attached. That's when he starts thinking about you even when you're not around. Because you didn't just make him feel desired, you made him feel valued. And when a man feels valued for who he truly is, that's when everything changes. When we talk about emotional safety, most people think it means avoiding conflict or always agreeing just to keep the peace. But that's not what true emotional safety is. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about creating an environment where honesty can exist without fear. It's about knowing that even if there's disagreement, the connection doesn't crumble. And for a man, that kind of safety is rare. Most men aren't raised to express their emotions freely. They're taught to stay strong, keep it together, don't show weakness. So when he meets a woman who makes it safe to let that guard down, even just a little, that's when attachment begins to grow in a way he can't explain. You can see it happen, can't you? In the beginning, he might joke his way around deeper conversations, change the topic when it gets too emotional, or brush off things that actually bother him. Not because he doesn't care, but because vulnerability feels risky. He's learned that being vulnerable sometimes leads to judgment, rejection, or worse, loss of respect. But when a woman listens to him without trying to fix him, when she lets him talk and doesn't immediately offer advice or criticism, she does something powerful. She teaches him that it's safe to feel. And once he realizes that, he starts to open up in ways he hasn't before, not just about what he does, but what he feels. That's the bridge between attraction and attachment. Because a man might be drawn to a woman who excites him, but he becomes attached to the woman who makes him feel safe being himself. When he can be messy, uncertain, imperfect, and still feel accepted, he starts associating that woman with peace. And peace, my friends, is addictive. Now, let's be clear. Emotional safety doesn't mean letting a man get away with everything or being endlessly patient with bad behavior. It's not about becoming his therapist or rescuing him from himself. True emotional safety is a balance. It's warmth without weakness, empathy without enabling. It's saying, I care about you, but I also respect myself. It's showing that honesty and boundaries can exist in the same breath. What makes that balance so powerful is that it creates respect. When a woman is calm but firm, compassionate but clear, she sends a message that says, you can be real with me, but you can't take advantage of me. That's the kind of energy that makes a man feel safe to be open, but also inspired to step up. Because deep down, every man wants to know that if he exposes the most fragile parts of himself, he won't be judged, but he'll also be challenged to grow. Think about it. In most of his life, a man is surrounded by expectations. He's expected to perform, to be strong, to lead, to hold it together. He's not used to spaces where he can just be. When he finds that with a woman, it feels like home. And that's when emotional connection starts to replace mere attraction. Because when someone feels like home, they become irreplaceable. There's something deeply magnetic about a woman who doesn't overreact, who listens with curiosity instead of defense, who stays grounded even when emotions rise. It's not that she never feels. She just doesn't let those feelings dictate her value or the direction of the relationship. That energy says, I'm not afraid of emotions, mine or yours. And when a man senses that, he relaxes. He stops performing and starts being. It's in those moments, late night conversations, shared silences, small, vulnerable confessions, where attachment quietly takes root. When a man feels like he can tell a woman something he hasn't told anyone else, and she doesn't flinch, doesn't criticize, doesn't turn it into a problem, that's when she becomes someone he doesn't want to lose, because she's given him something the world rarely does, safety without conditions. But it's important to remember that emotional safety doesn't come from trying to tobe his safe space. It's the owns from being your own first. When you're emotionally grounded, when you're not ruled by fear, insecurity, or the need to control the outcome, you naturally create that safety for others. You don't need to chase connection. It flows to you. You set the tone. Because when a woman is comfortable in her own emotional world, she gives permission for the man to be comfortable in his. And once that happens, something beautiful unfolds. He starts to see her not just as someone he desires, but as someone he trusts. He starts to open up more, invest more, and protect that bond more fiercely because he knows, consciously or not, that this isn't just another relationship built on attraction or convenience. It's built on something deeper, something solid. So when a man gets attached to a woman, it's not just because she makes him feel alive, it's because she makes him feel safe being real. And when a man feels that kind of safety, there's no need to chase him, convince him, or prove your worth. Because safety is the quiet kind of power that keeps him coming back, not out of need, but out of peace. One of the most misunderstood things about attraction and attachment is this idea that to keep a man's interest, you need to give him all of your time, all of your attention, and make him the center of your world. But the truth is, the opposite is what actually creates lasting desire. A man doesn't get attached to a woman whose life revolves around him. He gets attached to the woman who has a life that inspires him, the woman who makes him want to rise up to be a part of something greater than just the two of them. When a woman has her own world, her own passions, her own goals, her own rhythm, it creates a kind of energy that is magnetic. It's not about being too busy or pretending to be unavailable. It's about being alive. It's about showing that you are already living a full, meaningful life before he came along, and that he's not the source of your happiness, but a beautiful addition to it. That difference changes everything. Because when a man meets a woman who's confident in her own space, who's excited about her journey, and who's constantly evolving, it activates something deep in him. It's not intimidation, it's admiration. He starts to feel that being with her makes his life bigger too. There's something powerful about being with someone who isn't waiting for life to happen, but is already out there creating it. It makes him want to keep up. It challenges him in the best possible way to grow. And here's the secret. Independence doesn't push a man away. It actually gives him a reason to come closer. Men fall in love when they feel inspired, when they see qualities in a woman that remind them of who want to be. When she's grounded in her identity, she becomes a mirror that reflects his potential. She doesn't need to demand respect. She embodies it. And that's what keeps his attention long after the initial attraction fades. Think about it. When you meet someone who lights up when they talk about their goals, who loses track of time doing what they love, who is excited about their own future, you can't help but feel drawn in. That kind of energy is infectious. It makes you want to be around them because they radiate life. That's the same effect a woman with her own purpose has on a man. She doesn't have to convince him she's valuable, he feels it, because her life, her confidence, her joy all send one clear message: I'm whole on my own, but I'm open to sharing this wholeness with someone who adds to it. Now, some people confuse independence with emotional distance. They think being independent means never needing anyone or never letting anyone in. But true independence isn't about pushing love away. It's about being secure enough to love freely without losing yourself in the process. It's about knowing that you can give deeply and still stay rooted in who you are. That kind of energy is irresistible because it doesn't come from fear, it comes from strength. When a man sees that a woman values herself enough to protect her time, her peace, and her purpose, it changes how he approaches her. He doesn't take her for granted because he can feel that she's not afraid to walk away from something that doesn't align with her values. And that awareness makes him step up. He becomes more intentional, more respectful, more emotionally invested because he knows he's not with someone who needs him to feel complete, but with someone who chooses him from a place of fullness. There's something deeply attractive about a woman who can be fully present in a relationship, but also fully present in her own life. She's not waiting by the phone. She's not planning her days around someone else's schedule. She's out there doing things that bring her joy. Maybe it's her career. Maybe it's her art, her friendships, her family, her hobbies. Whatever it is, it gives her depth. And depth is what keeps a man intrigued. Because surface level attraction fades quickly, but emotional depth, that's what keeps a man thinking about you long after you've said goodbye. When a man sees a woman who has her own world, he realizes that if he's going to be in her life, he needs Todd to it. He can't just show up and expect her to drop everything for him. That subtle dynamic creates a powerful respect. It's not a game, It's a natural balance. You're not chasing him and he's not chasing validation. Instead, the relationship becomes a partnership between two whole people who are walking their own paths, but choosing to walk together. And here's the beautiful thing. When you live your life like that, you stop worrying about whether someone will stay. You're not trying to hold on to them with fear because you know that you're already enough with or without them. You love because you want to, not because you have to. You give because it feels good, not because you're afraid of losing something. And that's the kind of love that lasts. Because when a man sees that you're not waiting for him to make your world complete, he realizes that your world is already something worth being part of. And that's exactly when he wants to stay. There's something incredibly powerful about the kind of woman who can challenge a man, not with criticism, not with confrontation, but with belief. The kind of woman who looks at a man and says, not through words, but through energy, I see who you are and I see who you could become. That energy is rare. Most people either tear someone down when they're not enough or overpraise them when they don't deserve it. But the woman who knows how to challenge from a place of love creates a spark that changes everything. When a man meets a woman like that, she doesn't let him coast. She doesn't accept mediocrity disguised as effort. But she also doesn't shame him when he falls short. She simply holds him to a higher standard because she sees what he's capable of, and she refuses to pretend she doesn't. That kind of presence makes a man sit up a little straighter. It makes him want to rise to meet her energy. It's not pressure, it's inspiration. It's that quiet kind of influence that makes him think, I want to be better, not because she's asking me to, but because being around her makes me want to. Men, just like women, crave growth. They may not always say it, but deep down, every man wants to feel that he's progressing, that he's becoming someone stronger, more grounded, more capable. When he's with a woman who believes in him, but doesn't let him settle, that belief becomes a force in his life. She's not nagging him to change, she's inspiring him to evolve. And that distinction makes all the difference. You see, it's not about trying to fix a man. The moment you try to fix him, the dynamic shifts. He stops feeling seen and starts feeling managed. But when you lead with belief instead of control, you awaken something in him. You awaken his drive. Because deep down, every man wants to be respected by the woman he loves. And when her belief feels real, when it's grounded in truth and not fantasy, he feels that respect in his bones. It tells him, I'm enough as I am, but I can be even more. Think about how that plays out. Maybe he's talking about his career, his goals, or something he's passionate about. And instead of doubting him or dismissing his ideas, she listens. She asks the kind of questions that show she's actually paying attention. Maybe she says, that sounds like something you'd be great at, or I love how your eyes light up when you talk about that. It's subtle, but that kind of validation doesn't inflate his ego. It strengthens his sense of purpose. Because it's not empty flattery, it's recognition. And recognition coming from someone he respects means everything. When a woman challenges a man from a place of love, she's not trying to prove she's better or smarter. She's not trying to dominate the relationship. She's simply inviting him to step into his potential. And what's beautiful about that is that she doesn't do it with demands. She does it through example. She holds herself to that same standard. She shows him through the way she lives that growth isn't optional. It's a way of life. When he sees her pushing herself, when he sees her striving to become more in her own world, it naturally pushes him to do the same. She's not telling him how to live. She's showing him what living fully looks like. That's the kind of influence that lasts long after the conversations are over, because it's not about what she says. It's about what she represents. And here's the part that's often overlooked. Men attach deeply to the women who challenge them with grace, not with anger, not with resentment, but with genuine love. She might call him out when he's slipping, but she does it from a place of care, not control. There's no power struggle. There's partnership. She's saying, I'm not here to make you feel small. I'm here to remind you of how big you can be. That's the kind of challenge that doesn't create tension. It builds trust. Because when a man feels that a woman believes in him, truly believes, he wants to rise to meet that image she holds of him. He doesn't want to disappoint her. Not because he's afraid of losing her, but Beck awes her faith in him becomes something sacred. It becomes a reflection of how he wants to see himself. And let's be honest, in most relationships, it's easy to fall into two extremes. Either you let things slide until resentment builds, or you criticize until connection breaks. But the real power lies in that middle ground. The balance between love and accountability. The woman who can hold that space becomes unforgettable because she makes him feel both accepted and motivated, safe and stretched, loved and challenged. That combination is electric. It's what keeps the connection alive, growing, and evolving. Because attraction may pull two people together, but growth keeps them there. And when a man finds a woman who doesn't just love who he is today, but also sees who he could be tomorrow, he doesn't just attach to her. He commits to becoming the kind of man who deserves her. One of the most powerful things a woman can do in a relationship is to stop trying to control the outcome. To let go of that constant need to know where things are going, how he feels, what he's thinking, or whether it's all going to work out. Because the truth is, the more you try to control love, the more you strangle the very thing you're trying to build. Real connection can't be forced. It has to breathe. It has to unfold naturally. And men in particular are drawn to that space where they feel free to move toward a woman, not pushed, not cornered, not tested, but invited. When a woman isn't consumed, med by fear of losing him, she radiates a kind of peace that is incredibly magnetic. It's not detachment, it's trust. Trust in herself, trust in timing, trust that what's meant for her doesn't need to be chased. That energy feels different. You can feel it when she walks into a room. She's not auditioning for anyone's approval. She's not waiting for validation. She's just being. And that kind of confidence, that quiet security is irresistible. Most people don't realize that the moments when they try hardest to make something happen are usually the moments they start to lose their power. It's when you overthink every text, when you replay every conversation, when you try to decode every shift in tone. That's when anxiety starts driving the relationship instead of connection. But when you let go of control, when you stop trying to manage someone's feelings, you allow authenticity to step in. And that's when real intimacy can actually grow. It's not easy though, right? Because the instinct to control comes from fear. Fear of being hurt, fear of wasting time, fear of losing something before it even fully begins. So we do things to protect ourselves. We chase clarity, we look for signs, we hold on tighter. But what if, instead of trying to hold on, you learn to hold space? That's where the magic happens. Because holding space isn't passive, it's powerful. It says, I'm open to this, but I'm not dependent on it. I'm grounded enough in myself to let this evolve at its own pace. And when a man feels that from a woman, it changes how he shows up. He doesn't feel pressured. He doesn't feel like he has to constantly reassure her or perform to keep her interested. Instead, he feels drawn to her because she's